Where's he living now?
There's a house in Raleigh and they have just built a house in Boone. He left when the.
Pretty good.
Of course, I nobody wanted to drive.
Thank you.
Yeah, but that drives to the, did you want to drive out or fly?
Do what now?
Okay,
Yeah, what you need.
right, thank you. Come on back in.
Oh. He drives for a while. First December.
April 3rd, right?
He went to Boone. He went to Boone.
We now call the April 3rd, 2023 Vance County Board of Commissioners meeting to order. First on our agenda will be the invocation. It'll be given by Associate Minister Mary Anderson from Shiloh Baptist Church. Is she present? Okay.
Let us pray. Most holy and precious Father, Lord, we thank you for this time together. We thank you for this time of sharing, dear Lord, Father God. We ask, oh God, that you would bring hearts and minds together so that will benefit the people, the persons of this county, the county of Vance. Father, we thank you for each person that is present, dear Lord, Father God, for even those who may be on the way. We ask now, Lord, that you would just cover each one, endow them with your Holy Spirit. This we pray in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen and amen.
Amen. Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Next, we'll have public comments. We have 3 people who have signed up to make public comments this evening. Was there anyone else who wanted to make a comment who did not sign up? Okay, please keep in mind that each speaker will have 5 minutes. You're limited to 5 minutes to make any comments you wish to make in this section. First, we'll have Mitch Pittman. Is he present?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
How y'all doing? Let me formally introduce myself. Mitch Pittman, with Vance County Sheriff Office. I'm one of 3 that was charged. Well, mine was 3 years and 2 years ago. Well, we came,
Excuse me, sir, could you come up to the microphone a little bit?
we are here today just to tell our story. We have been quiet about it because we have put our trust in the hands of the sheriff office to represent us and to get our story told. Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
may I say something?
Go ahead.
First of all, Mr. Pittman, just please keep in mind that, this is a commissioner board,
Yes, ma'am.
and as a result, it is being recorded,
We
and that
understand.
anything you say
Make-
is going to be subject to it being recorded. So I just wanted
Yes.
you to keep that in mind.
We understand that.
All right.
We understand that this is gonna be recorded and it cannot be changed or modified. I'm gonna ask David Stain to go first with his statement.
Okay, there are 3 of you, so if each will identify yourself since you're going in different orders than you signed up.
I'm Stephen Staten. For 30 years, I've had the honor of serving the state of North Carolina and working for the state of North Carolina as an SBI agent, and then coming and working for the Vance County Sheriff's Office. The reason why I'm here today is to remind us of our obligations and our obligations to the community that we serve. I've worked numerous investigations, state and federal, but what is happening here is something to be desired. As a community, we must hold everyone accountable and ensure that we are serving the needs of the people. For the lack of knowledge, my people are destroyed, and your community is being destroyed. We've asked from the time this investigation has been started for an internal investigation to be done, at which time one would start it by another agency, which it was shut down for reasons beyond the sheriff's office. And we're not here to bash the sheriff's office in no shape or form. The second investigation was completed, which you guys gave $3,000 for the investigation. It was completed, but it wasn't good enough. What also stands out to me is that you also provided $25,000 to protect, $25,000 for an attorney to protect the interests of the sheriff's office. We've waited 2 years for this to be resolved with no indication of when it will be, when it will end. As each of us have a responsibility for a district or the community that we live in, I want to encourage you to question others about what's going on in your community. I ask you to call the FBI to conduct an inquiry or an investigation to see if we actually did anything wrong. We're not asking for anybody to stand up for us or say anything. We've stated what has happened on numerous occasions, and we would love for the FBI to come in and investigate this, or could just conduct an inquiry to see if there's something further to investigate. I pray that you will see fit to ask questions to others within your community, making sure that your community is being served. It's important to me as a person and somebody who spent 30 years in this business. I've raised 2 wonderful kids and they've all done right. I've never had anything on my record, but to have somebody question who I am as a person, as a man, and a man's name is all he has. And to question me and my integrity towards the job, I'm not there. I'm not there. So for me, as a human being, yeah, I'm really discouraged about what's happening in these communities. There's some things that people need to understand what's going on. So I encourage you to call your local FBI personnel, because I can't depend on the SBI. I encourage you to call your local personnel, your local FBI personnel, and make sure that they understand. If not do the investigation, just do the inquiry, just to see if there's something there. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I want to start out by saying this, a quote from Martin Luther King stated, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere." With that said, I'm asking for you all, asking the sheriff, will you ask the sheriff to ask the FBI to come in to investigate me, not no one else, but my actions. I feel like the SBI is complicit with the office that's investigated me, that they are complicit and they are together to convict me for injustice. So I'm asking for you to ask the local sheriff to call the FBI to investigate me. I'm not asking to investigate them or the DA or anybody else actions. I'm asking to investigate me. Facts about this case. I did not do the initial traffic stop. Second, I did not have any paperwork to seize the vehicle. When I said seize, the investigation was abandonment form. I didn't conduct any paperwork. I didn't forward no paperwork. I didn't even apply for the title for the vehicle. I didn't even write the check for the vehicle to be turned over to the sheriff's office. All I done, and I know this is being recorded, so all I done was previous investigation and they audio and video recorded. It's so much about this case that's not heard, that's not haven't been told. And now I have went 3 years of my life with certain gag orders where I couldn't express my innocence, but enough is enough. This have kept me quiet because I felt that it had shamed me. And when I said shame me, a lot of times you quiet because people might have a perception of you, but I can't be quiet and not stand for my innocence, where I teach everyone around me that you have to stand sometimes. And sometimes you have to stand alone. And so even if I have to stand alone, I'm gonna stand alone. I made up in my mind that I'm gonna move forward. So I'm asking you to ask the sheriff, will he call the FBI in? Thank you.
Well, I guess I'm last, but I'm Investigator Patel, Groove J. Patel, as my major and my partner, Investigator Pittman, stated. Back in everything they stated, this is my life, this is my legacy, and this is my career. Past 5 years, I've got a total of 8 years in law enforcement. For the past 5 years, I had the pleasure to serve and protect the citizens of this county. And with that being said, to be publicly humiliated, that just doesn't sit well with me. And I need for everybody to know the same story, not just one side of it. And it seems like certain individuals within the sheriff's office don't want to tell you the story. There's some powerful people. The sheriff himself is powerful in his position. And just like my guys, I ask you to reach out to him. And with that being said, I'm asking the board to take into consideration and learn about this case. I'm asking for, just like these guys, the FBI in, they don't have to investigate Major Staten or Investigator Pittman, but they can come in and investigate me and learn about these investigations that go on so they can come in and investigate these allegations. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Well, I feel free if you have any questions that you want to ask me, because I have nothing to hide. I know it's recorded. I'm here today for the start of my justice, to start to take back my life. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask me. Because I know y'all had to be confused about this. I'm not even asking for my money to be stored back. The money is I'm so past the salary. I'm so past the salary. The salary, if Vance County commissioners or the sheriff office feel like they don't want to pay me while I'm sitting home, but always remember, I'm not sitting home because I want to. I'm not sitting home because I choose not to go to work. I can't go to work. I have 12 felonies pending. I can't go to work. I can't go to work. It's been an IA to quote, exonerate me. It have been court procedures with county employees, county attorney, and it have been stated that it's evidence that exonerate Mitch Pittman. I'm asking for that information to come forward, exculpatory information. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask me. Maybe they don't want to ask, but I'm here. I'm an open book. I'm transparent.
So if you are on gag, how you able to come before?
We can't,
Trying
a
to get
gag
right to
order,
the knowledge.
after I read the gag order, I can't disseminate the
I
IA
can't just hand it to you.
Okay.
and a complaint that I filed against the DA. They are the items that are a gag order. I can't come in here and give it to you, but I can talk about my innocence. So I'm here to talk about my innocence.
Nobody's never had anything to hide. Nobody has ever, I've had conversations with the county attorney, I've had conversations with the county manager during this whole process. Nobody's never.
Why
had
wait
anything-
so late? Why wait now?
Why wait so late?
To now?
Well, because we were trying to be quiet, because we thought, hey, this would eventually go away. This would all be taken care of because we knew that we had done nothing wrong. Man, we haven't. We have no idea what this is all about.
And my reasoning is why I waited so long is it's my fault for putting my life and freedom into the sheriff's hands when he didn't do nothing. So I'm sick and tired.
And I'm not the only employee that's involved in this case. If you see my motion of discovery, I can almost say it's biased and racist. Because there's some people of different color that was involved, they done the title work, they not being charged. So I'm starting to lose my faith in the criminal justice system, or something that I took an oath to, that realized that they let me know each and every day that I'm Black. Because of the justice department, of the justice system. So yes, it is my fault for not coming forth, but I had put my trust in others to stand for me, but I can't allow it no more.
All right, we do want to thank each of you for coming forward. Does anyone have any questions before we move on? All right, thank you again. Next, we open the Board of Equalizations and Review. We don't have anyone that I'm aware that has signed up. If there's anyone present that would like to participate, they can do so. And it will not close today. It will stay open. So if you have any issues with the Vance County Tax Office in which you want to have addressed, you can do so while the Board of Equalization is open. Next, we're going to have Franklin Nobles. He's going to appear for the Employee Engagement Team for the Employee of the Month.
Well, this month, we really didn't have an employee to month. Oh, wait, hang on. We did. Hang on 1 second. This employee really deserves this award, probably more than any of us that's been up here. This employee works tirelessly day in and day out to make sure that we have what we need. This person goes above and beyond every day. When it comes to teamwork, just like I said, this person works tirelessly to help all departments, department heads, employees, commissioners, and even people who are not within our county. They show true initiative by trying to start new things to make our organization better. They show a lot of times already has material in hand that department needs, that department heads bring to them with issues. This person is always at work and will assist in any way possible. The door is always open. Above and beyond, this person fights hard for better working conditions for our county, like getting employees more money, helping create new positions within departments, helping with employee retirement, always bringing ideas to the department heads about hiring and et cetera. This person does so much more than what people really see. They see the final outcome, not what it takes to get it done. So with that being said, our employee of the month this month is Greta. She didn't know it. That's why we didn't have an employee of the month.
And Greta, I want to mention just a couple of things before we get you up there. Greta normally takes the photos, so we'll figure out how to handle that. But, Greta is a model department head. You may not know this. She's been with the county since January of 2005. That's 18 years. And she does an outstanding job leading our human resources department. Frankie mentioned it, but she puts in extra hours every day. She comes early, she stays late, great attitude. The actions and behaviors that she does sets a real example for our employees. A lot of the work that you do is behind the scenes. a lot of sensitive employee situations that she handles, but she does an outstanding job. And we're just so proud to have you and a part of our team. So Frankie, I'll let you and the chairman, we'll get you a photo, but congratulations, Argretta. Oh, yeah.
Okay. Next on the agenda, we would normally have our planning director as number 3. However, we do have Elliot Clark from Via Health, and he does have another appointment to attend. So we will allow him to come and speak briefly before the board concerning his concerns.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I come before you tonight with a brief update on 2 accounts. One is an update around our crisis services in the county. Last time I was before you, we did have some discussion around a recent notice of closure for our local facility-based crisis. This marks just over a month that has been closed, and a lot's happened in a month. First off, I wanted to just ensure that folks understand the commitment to retain services physically in Vance County. The long-term plan that we have is a 16-bed facility that would include the same types of services that RI had been providing, the facility-based crisis and non-hospital detox services, as well as a behavioral health urgent care and an outpatient clinic embedded in the same facility. That will require a much larger build out that we had already actually taken some actions around before this change transpired. Primarily, the goal is to retain the current capacity that we have in a licensed space where we have a provider already identified to transition into that space. So that is still a very live conversation and something that we're working towards. The other piece that I wanted to make sure that folks were aware of is that some changes have already been made around services that have been incorporated in the county that will hopefully ease some of the burden that the hospital is seeing within involuntary commitments and folks coming in crisis. One of those is a new mobile crisis provider for the county and for the region. RHA Health Services will assume that role as our new provider and bring a team of clinicians into the area, whereas before we only had one person that actually lived outside the area that was not adequate to serve. That will hopefully support our law enforcement agencies and our community in providing 24/7 crisis response in the community. That person will also be able to help facilitate services that they may need in the emergency department, but then incorporate services to help them link back to care once they're released, discharged rather. Another service that we're looking at incorporating is a peer bridging service. We've met with the hospital twice. There's a team of social workers as recently as last week. We have another meeting in the morning around a team of peer certified peer support specialists that will come into the emergency department and work with individuals that are coming out of the psychiatric inpatient facility to link into care. That was one of the primary barriers for many of our folks that would cycle through the emergency department and would come through that facility-based crisis, is they could not get linked back to care very easily in the community. So that peer service to help bridge them back and follow them back to that first appointment is going to be key. That service is actually already live and active and receiving referrals as we speak. So that's my update as far as crisis services is considered. The second item that I wanted to address with the board tonight is around some legislation that is active around the Child and Family Specialty Plan. If you will recall, this has been just shy of a year ago, so probably not. But this board did unanimously decide to support issuing a letter out of concern for this statewide specialty plan that would essentially take a localized approach to serving this population in foster care and bid it out to a large statewide commercial insurance organization. That legislation is currently in the House. The reference there is House Bill 340. We do believe that the House is taking a little bit more time to look at this more carefully, entertain feedback from counties and stakeholders and our providers, largely who have already issued some concern out of this legislation. What you have before you tonight is actually a draft. Well, the first document is some talking points. I won't go through those in detail, but that essentially makes sure that the message to our legislature is that we need to prioritize this population, most definitely, but we need to protect infrastructure within rural communities. We believe that this legislation and this health plan, this statewide health plan, would essentially take a lot of the authority and input away from local communities, local county government, and also deprioritize rural health initiatives that are not necessarily based on volume, they're based on need and lack of outcomes. You need a localized approach to be able to do that. So in summary, you do have before you tonight that list of talking points and a draft letter that would go to our Speaker of the House, Speaker Moore, Pro Tem Berger, our local delegation for the VIA counties, including Vance County, and our Secretary of Health and Human Services. I was told to be very brief, and I'll fulfill that promise. But I absolutely would be grateful if you have any questions or feedback for me.
Ellie, did you meet with Legacy? What did you share with them?
Yes, sir.
I'm on their board.
Absolutely. Yeah, we did. Via leadership, we had myself, our VP of Network Operations that manages the contract with Legacy, met with their executive director, their manager over their residential program, and two of their administrative staff, and heard some of the concerns that they have around the lack of services currently with the departure of Recovery Innovations, RI. And a lot of what we discussed, part of which was what I informed you of tonight, as far as mobile crisis services, the peer bridging services that we spoke about. And one of the ideas that we tossed around that we have not gotten a lot of traction on yet is addressing the non-hospital detox. We know there's a lot of concern right now, especially with the street drugs that are out there containing fentanyl and the lethality and the risk. Most of those folks need to be medically monitored, but for the folks that just need to be linked to care, that need to be monitored in a less medical model, essentially just having nursing staff and some peers around them that can help them be in a safe place and then transition into care. That needs to be restored. That's what we're working very diligently to restore in the area. But yes, we did, and I appreciate.
So how long do you think it's gonna take for the restore? What are you looking at? What's the timeline?
That's a great question. If we had our way, our provider is ready to go. Our provider, RHA Health Services, who does this type of work, operates these types of facilities across the state, has already agreed and to a contract with us to operate the facility. For our long-term plan, if we look at a new facility, which we already have an architect and we already have some preliminary things looking at, estimate, and there's so much contingency to this as far as construction goes. But I in a generous, estimate, it would be over a year to build out a facility like that.
So what's the alternative for them? Like, when I was at the last board meeting, they talked about 1-800 numbers that you could call and get service and everything, which wasn't in this area. So what's available to them? How do they handle their clients?
Sure. So the 1-800 numbers that were discussed are the same crisis numbers, 24/7 numbers that don't initiate services from a provider out of the area. That mobile crisis service or that outpatient follow-up is here. Those providers are here in the county. What we did discuss, the most close facilities, the closest facilities that would be able to house somebody for multiple days that have that facility-based crisis component, the closest ones are going to be in Alamance County and in Orange County. So huge barrier, lots of discussion, and we're actually working around transportation agreements with those providers to be able to aid in the hospitals when they're most appropriate to go there. But until we get something built out, those are the closest facilities that we have to access that we contract with. There's also facilities in Wake County that those individuals can go receive care, but nothing in our immediate region.
So how did Ms. Johnson feel about that in terms of being able to use those out of the area services?
She's very concerned. Very concerned. And as are we. You know, that none of this is the
Detrimental to
ideal.
program is really.
During this transitional period, while we improve quality that's needed to be improved in this county for many years, frankly, there will be a strain on our local resources. There will be a strain on our providers, but folks are stepping up. We've got providers that are doing new things that weren't before. We're incentivizing those services. We're paying them more and creating some flexibility. But this transition is not going to be easy for anybody.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I'd want to make a motion that we send these letters to our legislative body and also to the head of the Department of Health and Human Services.
A motion has been made by Commissioner Brummett, seconded by Commissioner Banks, that we send these letters. All those in favor?
What's the motion? What is the motion? That we send these letters, the template letters that were part of the package, to our legislative body to encourage them with the Child Family Services Act not to proceed with that on a commercial basis.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion carries unanimously that we send the letters to our state legislators. Thank you.
Thank you.
So
for your
let
time.
me ask a question, Madam Chairman. This new space that you're talking about building, wait, have you located the place where you're gonna build the building?
Repeat that for me. I'm sorry, I missed.
You say you're looking at a place to build a new building.
Correct.
Have you located the place in Vance County for building that building?
Yes, sir. We have
Where is that place?
on Dabney Drive, 31,000 square feet. It's a facility on Dabney Drive. It's currently been vacant for a few years. It would be a remodel. It's not a new
Oh,
build. It
it's
would
not,
be a
you're not
remodel.
building a new building, you're renovating a
Correct.
building.
Yeah, the cost of building a new building and the process.
No, you were saying building a building, but you mean you're renovating a building on Dabney Drive
Correct.
to do this?
Correct.
But it's gonna take you a year to do that?
More or less, there's a lot of contingencies. Right now, the architect and an engineer have viewed the facility. There's a lot of unknowns, but we have issued a letter of intent around that facility. So if it's amenable, we haven't gotten feedback from the actual landlord as of yet as
So
to.
you really don't have a place? That's what I'm hearing.
We've issued intent to build out a
You've issued,
location.
you have a request from the owner, right? But
We
the
have a
owner-
letter of
The owner
intent.
has not gotten back to you yet and said he's gonna let you do that.
Correct. Yeah.
So you really don't have a place.
Well, as of Friday is when we submitted the letter of intent. So we're
As of this past Friday?
correct.
Okay. RHS is your provider?
RHA is the indicated provider. Yes, sir.
Where are they located?
They're a statewide organization. They're a provider that has multiple locations.
But where are
across
they
the state.
located for Vance County? I'm just interested
They'll
in
have
Vance
physical
County. How
locations.
does Vance County get in touch with RHA?
So
Providers
their
in-
headquarters is based out of Asheville. But they have facilities and provider locations across the state. The
What's
closest
the
one,
closest facility to Vance County? How does a Vance County person get a hold of these people?
I could certainly aid in that if you need to get in touch with their corporate office, but their local offices, they do have a clinic in Roanoke Rapids. They also have a clinic in Burlington. They offer residential services actually.
Is that who our Vance County person would call? The people in Roanoke Rapids?
I would
or-
recommend contacting their corporate headquarters in Asheville, Buncombe County.
So we don't have anybody designated right now that our people could call.
Absolutely. Yeah, they have a regional director that I could easily put you in touch with if.
Colonel, you talking about for services or for communication?
I'm talking about, he says he has a provider called RHA, right?
For services.
So if you are in Vance County and you need this service, who do you call? Where do you call? You call Roanoke Rapids? Do you call this other? You see, that's what I'm talking about.
So this particular provider is not currently situated in Vance County. That's what we're hoping to.
But my
procure.
concern is Vance County.
Absolutely.
Via said they would provide this in Vance County.
And that's what
And
we
so
will.
now what I'm hearing from Via is one, there's no number I can give somebody, or where'd he go? Leo down there somewhere could call and give a point of contact for Vance County to get to RHA. And you're saying you don't know who that is.
I do know who that is.
Well, that's
Absolutely.
headquarters, you say, but
Yeah, their regional director is Sarah Huffman. She would be overseeing the.
and where is she
development.
located?
She's actually physically located in Alamance County. But point being, they have an infrastructure and a point of contact for this region that if you,
Okay.
if
I
you
got-
want
I
to
got
hear
it.
back.
And the other thing I'm hearing, again, Via has promised to deliver this service in Vance County, but you don't have a building to put it in. You tell me you on Friday, 2 days ago, you tried to get the owner to find out if he's going to let you do it in his building, but you don't know that for sure. And so
We've
here we
made the
are
offer.
over a year away.
We've made the offer for that space and we're also interested.
You didn't make the offer to fire. You don't have a backup. Right? If this guy says no, then we're at square one again.
We're back to looking at additional facilities. That type of a facility is very difficult to build out
Done.
with the license.
I'm done. Thank you.
Sure.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate your time.
Next on the agenda, we have our Planning and Development Director, Keith Callahan.
Can you believe that?
Good evening.
Hey, how's everybody this evening? We have a rezoning request is case number RZ 2023-0309. And the parcel is situated in Kittrell. It's straight across an intersection with Main Street and kind of diagonal to the Dollar General and Shell Station. On one side is Tony Hurst Architect's Place, and the other side, I think, is called the Kittrell Auto Mart. And seeking to rezone that from R20 to highway commercial. And it does fit squarely within the Vance County Land Use Plan, far as Kittrell. I think you have an excerpt from the land use plan. We did advertise, notify owners, and I took it before the planning board. Nobody opposed it. And it carried on a unanimous vote.
Madam Chair, if you just want to open public hearing, if there's any public comments, and then we'll.
We want to open up now in case there's anyone here that wishes to make any public comments concerning the rezoning of this area in Kittrell, North Carolina. Is there anyone present that would like to be heard? It appears no one is present. You may continue.
But it does follow sound planning principle. We are shy on commercial property in that area of the county. And even in the land use plan, it's commercial and service development in Kittrell can be developed to better serve the residents of the southern part of the county. And that stretch of highway does have a turning lane, which is a big plus for the property.
Okay, now we're gonna close the public comments.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we approve the rezoning on the basis that it is reasonable and consistent with the county's land use plan, and that the proposed zoning would be consistent with surrounding zoning and current uses.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion made by Commissioner Brumett, seconded by Commissioner Hester. Any comments? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
All right, thank everybody for the
Thank
time.
you. Next, we open the Water District Board. We have our monthly operations report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You all have the monthly operations report in front of you. There's no particular item that I wanted to point out, but there are a few other items I wanted to just mention for you. We've been working with EnviroLink, as you all know, to get additional taps installed. We had 45 new taps as a part of our incentive period. So I wanted to give an update on that. As of late last week, all of those taps but 2 had been installed. And so they've made, pretty good progress. And it looks like they're just finishing that up in terms of getting those water taps installed. The other item I want to mention, phase 1B, which is the next phase of our water system. We had a bid opening earlier. I guess it was last month now. We did not have enough bids to open the bids. So that was pushed back to actually this Thursday, April 6th. There was only one response that came in. And in talking with our engineers, there were 10 plus contractors that were interested in bidding. They reached out and followed up with them and found out that, some of them were too busy. Some were not able to get some of the pricing from their subcontractors. They're hoping that we'll get the number of bidders we need this second go around, but that'll be later this week. So that's kind of just the water update. If there's any questions, I'll take those. So.
Madam Chair, I got a question. So in state policy is on the first time around, you have to have 3 bidders. On the second phase around, how many bidders do you have to have?
That's a good question. I think you need at least 2, but we'll have to make sure. I would prefer to have more than that. So.
Well, I'd prefer you have 20, but that ain't
Yeah.
the point. The point is
If
what
you
is
don't
the
open
minimum amount of bids you have to have.
yeah, you don't necessarily have to have 3 bids the second time around. That's correct.
Just,
So you had 10 minutes first, 10?
No, there were 10 plus. They provided the list of contractors they were talking with that had interest in it. But only the one submitted. And there's 2 contracts. So there's 2 bid openings. The first one is for the water line work. That's the one where we had 1 bidder that responded. And then the second contract is to rehabilitate the water tank that's in Kittrell. We did not receive any bids on that. 1 bid came in a day late due to FedEx issues. And so, but we're working with LKC Engineering. They're our contract or our engineers. And they're working to get us bidders. So.
just one question on the operations report. First off, it appears that the February and the fiscal year to date headers are reversed. We've got more February than we do year to date. And the other thing is we had 41 line locates this month. Is that because of the installations?
I would believe so. We can confirm with EnviroLink, but let's see, where is that now? Let's see.
6 line down.
I would say that's probably the majority of them, but they get, line locates every month, but we can confirm which ones were related to the.
It was as many this month as it is entire year
Yeah.
to date. So
Yeah.
that's,
Yep. Yeah. Yep.
well, it can be good or bad depending on, if people are growing, moving stuff and all, that's a good sign. But if it's just to locate because they're installing taps, then that could be part of that process too.
Does anyone else have any comments or questions? We close the Water District Board. Now we'll have committee reports and recommendations.
Good evening, Commissioners. Chris Dillon, Assistant County Manager. We had two committee reports this month. One is from the Technology Committee, and that's we had a meeting with Brightspeed. They brought one of their individuals down from the state to talk about the GREAT grant. That was a $4 million application. We were awarded, well, Brightspeed was awarded 1.97 million for 664 locations. With an additional 65, that gets up to 729. As part of the grant, the part for us and Brightspeed is $347,821 for a match, and 50% of that, which is $173,911, can be provided by a local government, in that case, Vance County. So our recommendation is to approve the resolution related to the GREAT grant agreement among Vance County, North Carolina Department of Information Technology, and Brightspeed, subject to the review of the county attorney's office.
So move.
Second.
Okay. Motion has been made by Commissioner Fain, seconded by Commissioner Kelly. Any questions
Good discussion.
or discussions?
In the contract, it refers to the grantors as us and NCDIT, and the grantees then I guess would be Brightspeed. But when you talk about if there's a discrepancy and there's a legal inquiry, the fees for those are to be paid by the grantee. Is that correct? Which would be Brightspeed?
Is there a particular section, Commissioner Brummett, that you're referring in the agreement?
I believe that there's a provision for attorney's fees if we have to go to collect. I'm not sure that any inquiry at all provides for the provision of legal fees,
Wait a minute.
just because it was related to this.
It mentions on page 15 of the contract, section 4.7, that
It's on page 46 of your packet. Item number 3.
item number what now?
Item number 3, page 46 of the packet.
Right, that's dealing with repayments.
Right. So in that case, what it appears is that
So what that's saying is that the state would notify Brightspeed in writing if they have to repay any of the funds.
all right, when you go to the bottom of that paragraph, it says the grantors may employ an attorney to enforce its rights and remedies, and grantee agrees to pay legal cost and reasonable attorney's fees.
That's right.
That's correct. So grantees would be Brightspeed in this case.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Just wanted clarification because they bounced that all around in the prior document. Agreed.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Ayes have it unanimously. Do we adopt the recommendation?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The other committee report is the Human Resources Committee. That committee met to discuss changes to commissioner compensation. The commissioner compensation still lags adjacent jurisdictions. The committee recommended an annual increase of $3,000 to be as a market adjustment to be in line with the contiguous counties. Staff intends to include that recommendation in the budget unless directed otherwise. And that's for your information only.
Mr. Hess.
I got some questions. I thought last year we did a study. And that study ended up increasing the county commissioners starting in July of last year at 7.58%. So now if you're looking at what you're talking about again, another raise, you're looking at a 22% increase. So what you're doing is you're almost making a 30% increase in salary for the county commissioners. Now, last year when we did the salary increase for the commissioners, we also looked at the employees of this county. What are we doing about the employees of this county this time if we're looking at a 22% raise?
I think the manager would have to.
Yeah, and you're correct. We did salary study last year. Employees were included in that. We're working on the budget for the upcoming year. So at this point, I don't know that we know exactly. We are going to build in some sort of cost of living adjustment. Inflation's going up. But we're working on the budget right now to try to figure that out.
Well, the thing about it is, when you start looking at the cost of going up as far as the cost is concerned, what kind of cost of living do you think estimate would that be? What percentage?
I'd love for it to be a 4% if we could afford it.
But you don't know what it will. It ain't 22%. I just think we're not doing the right thing by the people in this county or by county commissioners by raising our salary that high. I think it's the wrong thing to do.
I think when we looked at the 3,000 was really recommended from our commission, our county manager brought that, when we looked at the salary of the other counties and reference what they was, being compensated, and some was quite more. And some was quite, more, and like I said, we was lagging behind. And so we had, like I said, our county commissioner came with that figure to get us up to par to what some of the other counties was making, and plus we're getting ready to add on additional work of a meeting. So that's why we was justified by looking at all of those, when we approved that.
Madam Chair, out of the 5 counties you're looking at, the total budget for any counties, 3 of them is higher than ours. And the one closest to ours is Person County. And theirs is around $70 million per year, and their salaries match ours. The only county that's less than ours is paying more. And I don't agree with that. But the other 2 have their total budgets of around $90 to $100 million. So if you're gonna keep in line with what you need to do, you need to keep in line with counties of the same size budget that you have. But obviously, I'm not gonna worry about what other counties do anyway. I'm worried about this county because the people that elect me are from Vance County.
Anyone else have any comments?
I do, but I'm gonna keep it right now.
This is for information only, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So we discussed it in budget.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you. Next, we're gonna have the county manager's report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have several items for you this evening. First of which is really just to make sure to put something on the commissioner's radar. County Assembly Day. This year, the new title for it is County Advocacy Days, because it's more than one day this year. This is the event that the Association of County Commissioners holds each year, gives you an opportunity to interact with legislators in Raleigh. That will be on May 23rd in the evening, be a dinner program, and then May 24th in the morning. So just want to make sure you're aware of that, have the opportunity to put it on your calendars. If you're able to attend, would want to make sure you get with Kelly so she can get RSVP. But again, it provides an opportunity to interact and talk and hear from our legislators there in Raleigh. And then also on the Friday, or the 24th, rather, we would be able to visit them in their offices at the legislative building. So that's just for your information. Second item, we do have a proclamation in support of Spring Litter Sweep. That's the effort of DOT each year to help clean up the roadsides of the state. They do it in the spring and the fall. Spring Litter Sweep is April 15th through the 29th this year. The city of Henderson is planning a city cleanup day on April 21st. That's a Friday. And we're also planning an employee cleanup day that same day on Friday, the 21st. So the recommendation would be to approve the proclamation that would designate April 15th through the 29th as Spring Litter Sweep in Vance County.
So move.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. So moved.
Next item is a resolution in support of naming a bridge along Satterwhite Point Road in honor and memory of Master Trooper Brent Montgomery, who passed away last year. The Highway Patrol is working with DOT to dedicate the Satterwhite Point Bridge that goes over 85, and they've asked for a letter of support, a resolution of support from the county in support of that. So our recommendation would be to approve that resolution.
So move.
Second.
A motion has been made to accept the resolution by Commissioner Kelly, seconded by Commissioner Brummett. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Unanimous vote to accept the resolution has been entered.
Next item is a request from the sheriff. This is to award service weapon and badge to Lieutenant Sharon, who retired January 1st. He was with the county for 30 years. By general statute, former law enforcement officers who retire from the office of the sheriff, they are eligible and really by law shall receive their badge at no cost. We also have a local policy that governs the service weapon, and he would be eligible by our policy also to receive the service weapon. So we would recommend that you award the service weapon and badge to retired Lieutenant Nathaniel R. Sharon according to the county policy.
So move.
Second.
Motion has been made by Commissioner Fains that and seconded by Commissioner Brummett that for the award of the service weapon and badge. All those in favor?
All right.
Any opposition? Question?
The badge is at no cost. Is the weapon at no cost also?
Yes, according to our policy, it is.
County
Yeah.
pays for the weapon.
Yes.
Okay.
And how long was Lieutenant Sharon with the Sheriff's Department? Do you know?
30 years.
And this is the weapon that he was used during the time he was in office.
Yes.
Most recent, yeah.
Right. The motion has been made, seconded, it has been voted that we accept the recommendation. So we have voted and the weapon shall be awarded to Lieutenant Sharon as requested.
All righty. Next item, this is a follow-up from last month's meeting. If you remember, we had some public comments from some folks on Key Estate subdivision regarding the road condition. We also talked about this briefly at your planning retreat, but we've prepared a memo and we've put it in the agenda that outlines the process. These roads, they're referred to as orphan roads. And what that means is essentially a developer does not ever turn them over to DOT. And so they become roads that are not maintained by any legal entity other than the property owners who live down that private road. And this is not just a Vance County issue. This is an issue that's statewide. The Association of County Commissioners has been lobbying the state and the federal government for funding and also for options for counties to be able to try to bring these roads to standard and then turn them over to DOT going forward. And so that memo talks about the legally permissible method that we're aware of, which involves essentially a petition from at least 75% of the owners that would live out there, that they would be agreeing to not only have the road brought up, but also agreeing to an assessment to pay for it over 10 years. And it can be fairly expensive. And then there would need to be an entity that would oversee the construction and pay for it, and then ultimately put those assessments in place. But just that's for your information, but wanted to follow up and put that in there based off the comments we heard at last month's meeting.
Madam Chairman, can I make a comment?
Yes.
The comment I'd like to make on that is that problem is a problem that was brought to us, but was not created by us. Because the zoning ordinance we passed and have in place, but the subdivisions that you're talking about were installed back when the county had no zoning at all.
Yes, prior to our subdivision
It was
regulations.
actually the subdivision ordinance that created, that
And then-
resolved that problem, not the
It's
zoning.
not a problem that was created by this board. It was a problem created in years way beyond past because there was no such thing as subdivision regulations or zoning in the county.
That's correct.
I just want to make that comment.
Any other questions, comments on that? We'll move on to the next item. We have brought back the 5 goals that you all prioritized during the retreat. These would be goals for the coming fiscal year. Just want to read down through these and then seek the board's official approval of them. The first goal is to explore opportunities for partnerships. Vance Granville Community College and others that seek to enhance small business development. Number 2 is successful implementation of the Economic Development Strategic Plan, which is in process. Number 3 is to begin planning and identifying opportunities for distributing and utilizing opioid settlement funds and support educational programs that seek to reduce drug dependency. Number 4 is to implement a community paramedicine program that seeks to improve community health, reduce frequent flyers, and assist in lowering EMS call volume. And the 5th goal would be to begin construction of phase 1B of the county water system and offer public information or sign-up meetings with the goal of increasing signups 20% above the current level. So those were goals that you all were a part of developing. We would recommend that you approve those at this time.
Move for approval of the goals.
Second.
The motion has been made that we approve the goals by Commissioner Brummett, seconded by Commissioner Kelly. All those in favor?
Aye.
Just any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any noes? Ayes have it, so move.
The next item, also talked about during the retreat, the commissioners had interest in having a regular work session each month. And so we've essentially created an amendment to the official meeting schedule for the board to provide that additional meeting each month. And we've done that for the rest of this calendar year. When we looked at this, we noticed, counties typically during the month of June and July would not hold these. So we did not include for June and July or for December. And so the idea would be for the board to approve and to get these officially on the books so we can have these work sessions. We do need to, as we approve this, establish a time for these meetings. In talking with staff, certainly they would prefer a daytime or late afternoon meeting, but certainly that's up to you all. But the recommendation would be to approve the revised Board of Commissioners meeting schedule to include adding that scheduled work session each month.
So move.
Second.
There's
What about time?
discussion?
I want to make sure I clarify this. These are volunteer work sessions. Is that correct?
They're board work sessions.
They're not required. Correct?
I don't know that any meetings are required, but they are work sessions.
Very good diplomatic
We are required to have one monthly meeting.
Absolutely very diplomatic answer. Fantastic. I got my answer.
As far as
Well,
time,
one of the reasons I think that it was recommended for these work sessions is so some of the commissioners felt like they could benefit from having additional information and benefit from having additional individuals maybe come in and enlighten them as to what we may have pending the agenda. So that would be beneficial to some of the commissioners to make sure they're more informed when they are called upon at these meetings to make certain decisions that adequately affect the interests of the county. So no, I would say it's not required, and it's up to each individual commissioner whether or not they want to participate. But in my opinion, I think it will be beneficial because it will give each commissioner more insight as to what they're going to be voting on when we're sitting here in the meeting, and being more informed means you're doing a better job in serving those people that you are elected to represent. It's nothing like having to make a decision and you don't have all of the information. The discussion at the retreat was that commissioners felt like if they had additional information, a lot of times they can make more informed decisions rather than feeling like they didn't have all the information they needed. So it was discussed at the retreat that it would be beneficial. But again, if someone does not want to come, I don't believe no one is going to force anybody to come.
We're not gonna
Or
send
they
the
have a
sheriff to get you.
conflict.
Well, I did a due diligence when we discussed it and everything, and I surveyed 7 different counties. And of those 7 counties, all the surrounding counties, included Lee County, Durham County, and Charlotte, all of them had a work session. They had two meetings a month, and they had a work session. Like the one in Charlotte had a work session. They did a meeting and then a work session, which I thought was interesting. Person County did a work session and they flipped and they had an evening meeting at 7 and they flipped and had a 9 a.m. meeting the next session, which I don't particularly care for the 9 a.m. I think that probably for us would be like 3:30 in the afternoon to maybe 4:30 or 4:45. Keep it strictly an hour and a half, no longer. That would be my thought on it.
You know, I don't get to Vance County till 4 o'clock.
Well, I thought you were coming anyway. You're getting ready to come anyway.
I'm just saying, when did our first one? The meeting?
Who's the first one?
So looking at the 17th of April would be your first one, so 2 weeks.
Get up
It'll
to.
be like Tom minutes there. It's not mandatory. Get in when you get in.
Well, see, I have my own opinion. I think it's mandatory because I represent a county that I want to be informed that I think is important as a whole. And we work as a team trying to make sure we make the best decision for our county. So I speak for myself that I think is very important that I be there.
I don't knock that. Just get here when you get here.
Can you do it real fast?
I think 5 for the staff is a little bit,
I mean, I can come in and just get there for, if you all want to do 3, I'm not opposed to
Okay.
that, because like I said, I want to take into consideration other people. So I just,
I think 4 o'clock
Part-
would probably be.
Part of it also is the ability of the public to be involved in the process and come to the meetings if they choose. And we talked a little bit about it earlier or at the end of last week, was the possibility of maybe being able to record the meetings or have some way that people that are working can come back and review those meetings at a time. And then we could retain some flexibility with the staff, but I mean, I'm kind of like you. I work out of town too a lot of times, and getting back at 3 o'clock just kind of takes half a day out of your work schedule.
How does 4 o'clock sound? Is that?
We'll do it at 4. Charlotte said they do it at 4 and keep it to 1 hour. Or you don't do it in 1 hour? Cut it off.
Well, I don't want to be like Mecklenburg County by any means.
Well, I know you're not Mecklenburg County, but you learn from other counties also, Dan.
4:35. Between court and working, setting it at 4 every day, every meeting. Well,
But it's just like one time a month.
4:30.
4:30.
I think that'll give everybody enough time to. So 4:30, I think that would accommodate everyone for the month of April. Let's see how it goes, and if we need to readjust that time, then we can do so at a later date.
Are the meetings like the commissioner meetings when we do them on this, are they put on the website for review later? Or are they just, you're either live or they're not? But if you don't not watch it now, can you go back and watch it later? So it is recorded and you can watch it later. Okay,
Still said 4, y'all.
The regular meeting.
4 o'clock.
regular meeting.
4 o'clock for staff, y'all. I think that's being considered. Because folks have childcare and different kinds of things. Let's be, make it a work session. No. Do it at 4 and you be through at 5. If you,
Does anyone have a motion?
So let me may I ask a question here?
Yes, go ahead.
I just want to follow up on this required, not required attendance. If you're not going to require attendance, why have a work session?
I mean, it's a called meeting. So every commissioner has the ability to come or not come, but it's a call meeting by the board chair and your attendance would generally be expected at
All
those
meeting
meetings.
is not the same thing as a work session.
It's a called meeting.
The question is, if you're not going to have, a call meeting is kind of required. If you have a call meeting, that's kind of required. If you're not going to have required attendance and the purpose is to get together to find out whatever you're trying to find out, why have a meeting if there's no required attendance for all commissioners? And then how does that impact
Colonel,
the committee session?
some
You
people,
have a committee meeting and a required, are you gonna have a committee meeting and a work session? A work sessions that does not require attendance? I don't understand what that's about.
I'm with Colonel. I mean, I feel like we should, if it's a work session, call whatever, we should all be in attendance. I mean, we can't force nobody to do anything.
I mean, you could have a work session and only two commissioners show up because it's not required. So
Mhm.
what's the point?
It makes a big difference, just like when I have meetings with Jordan, me, him and Dan, we discuss a lot of different things that doesn't come out necessarily in these meetings, but it's more informative. It's a more informal setting, and you have better insight when we appear in these, when you appear at the actual meeting, you basically have a lot more information to go on.
Madam
You
Chair,
have an opportunity to get information. You have an opportunity to do your independent investigation. You have an opportunity to do your individual workshop. You have an opportunity to have anybody come before, the workshop that you feel like can enlighten you about a certain situation. So I believe it is beneficial if you, just like in a committee, nobody forces you to come to a committee. It's open to the public. People come sometimes. If somebody can't come, they don't come. But there's no penalty or anything that's gonna be imposed against someone if they don't come, and that's gonna be the same with the workshops. If you choose not to come, and you choose not to be there to represent your constituents on an issue that may be important to them, that's your decision. And that's just my opinion.
What we calling it?
Mr. Attorney, are the expectations the same for a work session as it would be for a regular or a called meeting?
There's nothing formally called a work session in the statutes. And so I would say the expectations are set by the board.
Just set the expectations and move on. Okay. You heard, you called for vote.
Yeah,
I thought you did.
I don't know what it's, yeah.
Okay, all those in favor of having a work session once a month
What time?
at 4:00, all those in favor say aye.
Discussion. Wait a minute, discussion.
Okay.
That motion says all those in favor of having a work session. That motion should talk about whether it's a required work session or not. Yeah, you can amend the motion. A work session,
Work session.
required attendance.
May I make one comment?
Go ahead. I mean, you started this, so go
I
ahead.
love to. I'll enjoy it. Ask our county attorney if you're required to come to this meeting.
You required to come to this meeting.
The county,
The answer
the
to
county
that
man.
is yes. The answer is that
County
is yes.
commissioners, are they
You're required
to be at every meeting?
I am because you guys asked me to be here, but you all are not.
That's all I wanted to know. You're not required to be here.
You can get elected and you can show up for your next swearing in 4 years from now.
That's exactly right, Dan.
So that's why I didn't include the requirement in there.
Well-
At the retreat, it was the consensus that we have a workshop. So again, the motion has been made. All those in favor of having a workshop once a month at 4:00, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Unanimous, aye. Motion carries.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Last item that I have for you, this is an action item. This is in regard to the solid waste site up in Drury. Get a number of complaints about the condition of the driveway in that site. This is a site that we share the operational cost with Warren County. And we've reached out and Warren County is willing to pay for 50% of the paving cost. And so we wanted to bring that forward to you. Total cost is $42,395. We would pay that entire amount and then be reimbursed 50% from Warren County. Reynolds Hauling is the low bid on this. We'd like to proceed forward. This is something that Properties Committee has previously talked about, the investment, and that pavement is a better longer term investment. You may recall we recently did the Kittrell site as well. And so we're recommending that we award a contract to Reynolds Hauling that totals $42,395. It'd be from the capital fund to pave the Drury solid waste convenience site.
So move.
Madam Chair, discussion, should we add to the motion to be reimbursed half of the cost from Warren County?
That would be appropriate if you want to.
Yeah.
That would be a friendly amendment.
Mhm.
Motion has been made, properly second, that we participate in the pavement for the Drury Solid Waste Site, and that we share the cost with Warren County on a 50% basis. All those in favor,
Uh,
say aye.
uh,
All those against, say nay. Ayes have it, motion carries.
That's all that I have, Madam Chair. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next will be our Finance Director.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This just a piece of information for the board tonight. CARTS is our transportation authority created with a joint resolution of Granville, Vance, Warren, and Franklin County. Their board includes one commissioner as well as one human service organization representative from each county. Their total expenditures are about 3.75 million. 80% is funded by federal government, 10 to 15 by local counties, and some by state. CARTS has been without a finance director for several months and has requested emergency funding from each of the counties to get through the remainder of this fiscal year. According to the interim director, they need about 75,000 to close out the fiscal year plus 19,000. The county has not provided that funding yet and is in the current year, which they want to serve as a bigger match as well. The CARTS board has directed the interim director to seek contracted assistance for financial accounting. And if there's possibilities that counties may need to cover the cost of those as well. County staff has reached out to the CARTAR to see if they can provide assistance as well. Additional staff is also aware that NCDOT has reached out and can offer guidance for reimbursement process. We do anticipate next month to recommend funding for CARTS. Any questions?
Yes, is the audit report still being requested, Commissioner Taylor? You on the board, right?
Yeah.
We was asking about an audit report. Is that in the process?
The audit for 2021 has been completed. They're awaiting the attorney's signature, and the audit for 2022 is beginning.
Okay.
Have you secured an audit firm for the 2022 audit now?
Have we done what?
Have you secured an audit firm for the 2022? Because that,
Not yet. We got one who says they might be interested in doing it.
okay. All right.
But I'll tell you this. I'm waiting to hear from Diane about what they're going.
They can't, I hear they can't hear you, Colonel.
In the mic.
They can't hear you out here in the audience.
Oh, I'm through talking.
Okay.
Anyway.
I was telling you that. I was telling you that. Working.
Okay. I guess one concern I had, and we don't have any authority over this board other than our budgeting. You as a board member have whatever responsibility on that. But with some of these meetings, it appears that some of the funding that they're short is because they're not getting their DOT funding because they're not doing the proper paperwork. And when our county managers have tried to be a part of some of those conversations, there's been some not want them to be there, not want them to be aware of those processes. Is there anything that your board could do to facilitate a more friendly environment with our county managers as they're trying to figure out these issues here? Because
I'm so happy you asked that question. There was a meeting with DOT last Thursday with the CARTS interim CFO and DOT. DOT has agreed to send a team of their own down to CARTS to counsel and do some training on how to submit the request for DOT funding that they're willing to provide. So they're going to have a team in the CARTS I believe it's next week. Because they said after the Easter week, this being the Easter, week. They didn't want to do it during the Easter week. But they got a team of people coming down to train the CARTS acting CFO on how to submit that. Now, the problem is that the former CFO left and took everything with them on how to do business. And so the interim CFO and them are trying to figure out how to do it. But DOT, I was in a Zoom meeting with DOT. I was in that meeting. And DOT has agreed to come down and get them started and showing them how to do it. They'll be there in 2 weeks. Glad you asked that question.
Thank you.
One of the concerns that, this is a necessary mode of transportation for a lot of our citizens. So it's something that as a board, we are responsible for providing the finances for CARTS. However, at our last meeting, myself and the co-chair along with the county manager, we were informed that they did not have a financial director. Is that position still vacant?
I'm sorry, say that again.
They have not found the financial director nor a CEO yet?
No, they have applications in though. I've seen about 5 applications for the CEO job, and I've seen about 3 applications for the CFO job. So now they're coming before the board for the board to look over these applications to see if any of them are qualified for the job.
Okay. Now, one of the things, that I had a concern about is that if we give them this money, is there any kind of checks and balances on making sure that the money is properly applied? Because I think, that's that was one of the concerns that, we didn't have a 2021 audit. We do now, but we still don't have a 2022 audit. So we don't even know if those funds, how those funds were applied. We don't even have a finance director. So if we are to turn over $300,000 between the 4 counties with 75 each, that's over 300,000. What assurances do we have as boards, each of the counties, that this money is going to be properly applied where it needs to go?
Yeah, so just to answer the question, they have told us that their intent is to have the 21 audit done by May. They have said that their intent is to have their 22 audit done by August. And so the 22 audit, we know there's no possible way for it to be done before we would be in position to give the funds. Now, if there are some conditions that we want to apply to us giving funding to them, we're all ears and certainly can do that. But if you put a condition that they have their audit done by a certain month and it's the next month when it's done, what's the repercussions of that? But certainly we're open to putting conditions on that they hire us, a finance person or a CPA or something. With the funds coming and they needing the funds by June 1st, the fiscal year ends at the end of June. And so there really isn't any conditions we could put on it around phasing the funds because they would need it for the end of the fiscal year. But we've been kicking that around too. If there's some particular conditions that we could or should have put on those, and we're open to that. But we're just trying to figure out what they could be.
You want to go first? Go ahead.
Yes, sir. The money that we're referring to, is this for all the counties?
Oh, excuse me. The money that we're referring to, is this for all the counties or just Vance County?
They're asking 75,000 for 4 counties.
For 4 counties. Now, if they haven't did the audit and the audit ain't done until October, you said?
August for the 22 audit. Yeah.
So how can we give more money if we ain't seen what they did with the last bout of money? And I think that's moving a little hasty to give more money, and we don't know what they're doing with the last money. Unless we give half, instead of giving the 75, cut that in half until we get an audit and see exactly what's going on, because we just giving. That's my opinion.
I just want to make a comment. That is, I want to thank Archie Taylor for stepping up to the plate knowing that we had problems with this and knowing that he's dedicated, working himself to find a solution. And I had the utmost confidence in he get this thing worked out, because I know how much time and effort he's putting in all over. And so Archie, I appreciate what you're doing on this CART deal.
I think Carts has had serious problems in the past because quite frankly, I don't think the board did what its right due diligence on checks and balances. But that's turned around. We got new board members now. Almost all the old board members are gone. The new board members are very diligent in trying to keep pace on and checks and balances on what's going on. I personally did some checks on some rumors because I was concerned that one of our commissioners rightfully was asking for a forensic audit, that sort of thing, which we still might do. But what I found out was the rumor mill was talking about people using the credit cards and things, and the finance people then honoring that, but they were paying it for personal affairs and that sort of thing. So I went and checked the books myself and had them check. And what I found out was, although it was true that the finance people were reimbursing folks who had used credit cards for personal rather than business expenses, those same people had come back and paid back to Carts the money that they had used. So like I have 4 statistics here. One person had used $23.81 on personal matters on their credit card, but they came back and paid the Carts $23.81. Another person had used $3,750.23. And they came back and gave the Carts budget $3,750 of their own money. They paid the Carts board back. I mean, that's all documented in writing. And the same thing with $191, et cetera. The only deficient was someone had used $1,171.28. But they came back and paid $1,100 of it. And so, although the rumor mill was correct about people using the credit cards, but the people who had used them came back and paid that money back. And it's not unusual when you issue credit cards to employees when they're in a scrape sometimes to pull that credit card out and use it for a personal thing. I've seen that in the federal government. I wasn't surprised to see it when I saw it at Carts, but the real, as long as they come back and pay it back, there's not a criminal intent there.
I would have to contend with Commissioner Hester in terms of Archie. I'm glad to see that Archie's there and in terms of investigating and everything. And I think Carts, even though they've had some trouble, I think they're trying to get their act together. And I don't have a problem with us supplying that money to help them out because I think they realize what's happening. I think that I'm hoping that they are moving in the right direction with the new board. I'm going to say this, but I'm not real. I'm going to say this. I don't want to see us put restriction on them. And for the mere fact and everything, I think the other counties that participate, if we don't participate, they'll step up to the plate. So we would be the Lone Ranger and everything. So I think, and I know that the only thing I find with Carts, I wish they had a better system in terms of pickup and delivery, because I see a lot of times the transportation are empty buses and everything. And I think that the DOT could help them develop a system whereby they schedule pickups the way in which that I don't see a lot of empty buses going around and everything, but I think that it's a vital service to the minority population of Vance County, as well as to the senior citizens and everything, that it is a viable service for this community. So I would supporting them.
My understanding that they're currently operating without an approved budget. Is that correct still?
That is correct.
Do they anticipate having a budget?
The board, the previous board at Carts never approved a budget for 2023 or 2022 for that.
For this current fiscal year?
That's right. For this current fiscal year, they never approved it because they sent back and asked for the budget to include the maintenance of the facility. And the budget that was given to the previous board to approve did not include money in it to maintain the current facility. And if you tour the current facility, that is quite a facility. They're talking maybe $30,000 or more a month just to maintain the current facility. That money was never in the budget. And so they never approved it. They asked for them to go back, but nobody ever came back to the board. So they are operating under the budget has not been approved by the board, but that's going to get fixed.
Do we anticipate the budget being approved for this coming fiscal year?
I haven't seen it yet. We'll see. Haven't seen it.
Have the other counties made their decisions yet?
No, talking with the county managers late Friday, they're kind of taking the same approach as us, is sort of waiting as long as we can. There's some additional information we're still trying to get from CARTS as well, particularly the actual expenditures. And so none of the counties that I've heard from were ready to go and approve it tonight. Now, there was one I didn't hear from, but our intent is to, as she mentioned, to push this back to May and see where we are. And hopefully we'll be in a better position where we'll have the information and we'll be able to proceed forward with it. But the short end of this is they may be in a position not to be able to make their payroll in June. And for them to continue to operate, that's kind of what the expectation that's been mentioned to us, is that they need these funds. The other thing that has been mentioned to us, and I say us, the managers, as we've been meeting, is that a lot of this, the cause of this, as they've told us, is a result of increased operational costs at their new facility that were not anticipated when they moved in. And as a result of that, the amount of money that the 4 counties are having to put in needs to go up to meet that. All these other things aside, and issues and challenges, get a new director, get a new finance, all of that aside, it appears that the increased cost of that facility is driving the need for us to put more money in future fiscal years, aside from this emergency this year.
Does anyone have any more discussion?
He just answered my question.
One question I'd like to ask too, just for general knowledge. Is there another regional CART facility in the state of North Carolina?
The answer is yes. Yes.
Is it
There are several other counties in North Carolina that have a transportation system that's similar to CARTS.
And are we looking at checking with them or thinking
I've looked
about?
I've looked into it. I've asked the question. That's how I know the answer, because I've asked the question. And the answer is yes. We haven't gone to them yet to find out how they do it and how they stay afloat, which is where I guess you're leading to, but that has not happened yet. And back to Leo's question, part of the CARTS' problem is they are not very efficient at their scheduling. They're scheduling of routes around. That's why you see buses empty and that sort of thing. That's an area we're gonna have to look into and get a better scheduling set up for CARTS. Another issue with them is people will call for them to take them to the hospital and they show up and the person is not there. And so they don't pay because they found another way to get there. But that's a problem that has to be fixed. They got little problems like that have to be fixed. So we just got to look into them and fix.
But I do think when I see it going to Durham and Chapel Hill, that usually the buses have a capacity, they're passengers on it. They're not empty buses going down the road, to Chapel Hill and the Durham and the Duke and everything. So they're doing that, I think, efficiently.
But one thing that we just talking with them the other day when we were over there, the guys say that the typical passengers is 2 to 4 passengers. They're driving 15 passenger buses, not very efficient. So as they acquire new vehicles, maybe they need to do some things that are more efficient. There are a lot of opportunities for gaining more efficiency in the operation.
That's very true.
Okay, Jordan, you stated that they said they would need at least by June.
June first was the request that came to us for the 4 counties to put in the funds.
And so some of the other counties are waiting till May. The board can vote on this tonight, or they can defer this to May. Does anyone have a motion at this time? Oh, okay.
We don't need a vote.
Oh, okay.
Because this was provided for information only, if you look
Okay.
at it right
Yeah,
here.
we just want to keep you informed.
Yes.
We mentioned it last month. We wanted to mention it again this month and ensure that you're all fully aware. And again, this is not just myself. This is the 4 county managers from each of the counties that have been working on this for the last couple of months. So we intend to bring it back next month.
Okay.
They have an interim finance person right now who's doing a fairly decent job, but they've got what do you call it out there when you're looking for people? Yeah, they've got an announcement out there, and they've gone to different places. The state, for instance, DOT has a long list of people who will do audits and all kinds of things, but they've got out there job openings for CEO and CFO. And as I said earlier, I think they've gotten 5 applications for the CEO job and about 3 for the CFO job. Now, whether those are good people or not, I don't know. We're gonna look at them and see, but that's what they're doing and have been doing for the last 6 months.
Any further discussion? All right, we'll move to the county attorney's report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This evening, we have one new property to approve to be published for an upset bid. Property address is 1010 Standish Street. The amount submitted was $900.
Move for approval of the resolution authorizing the upset bid process for 1010 Standish Street.
A motion has been made by Commissioner Brummy, seconded by Commissioner Hester. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Madam Chair, not to further belabor the point that we just spent some time discussing, but I wanted to present a potential conflict of interest and ask if this board had any interest in waiving that conflict of interest for me to move forward, because I have been requested to do this. Initially, CARTS has asked me to complete and sign their annual audit letter for their auditors. In light of the questions that this board and our county administration has with CARTS, I politely declined and said I could not do that this year. Since then, it has been requested that I come to this board and ask if this board is willing to waive the potential conflict of interest. This is a letter that the attorney signs where they discuss potential loss contingencies as it relates to exposure of the entity for legal matters. During that process, it is conceivable that I become aware of some matters that would conflict me out and keep me from doing work for Vance County. So that's why I initially declined to do that. What can happen is if the CARTS board agrees to this waiver of conflict, they can waive the potential conflict of interest that it would create and allow me to continue to serve in all capacities as the Vance County attorney and not be conflicted out because of serving in this role. It is my understanding that the reason why they're asking for this is because that is all they are told that is keeping them from getting their 2021 audit issued.
What's the attorney's opinion on this issue?
My opinion is I was not going to do this because it did create a potential for the conflict. If both boards waive that potential conflict, then it is okay for me to do that. But I was not going to make that judgment call on my own. Although I have signed these letters for them in the past, I was not going to assume there was not going to be any conflicts created. I didn't even want to avoid the appearance.
Would this prevent you from representing the county if it became necessary?
No, sir. Assuming the CARTS board approves the same thing. They would be waiving my conflict that would be created by doing this limited representation for them and signing that
So
letter.
if we were to make a motion, it would be contingent on the CARTS board performing a similar action.
No disrespect, but whether it's in your motion or not, I would not do it unless the CARTS board did.
So what I'm hearing is the CARS board hadn't met or done anything on this.
I believe they were meeting today or going to be meeting today. I'm not certain.
The CARTS board has met on this. And the reason Jonathan is involved in this, for background information, is Jonathan has in the past signed the letter for audit. I think he signed the 2020 letter. Evidently, when an audit is done and complete, it needs an attorney to sign off to make sure that the attorney says in his letter that he is not aware of any judgments being brought against the organization and all that kind of stuff. That's what Jonathan is talking about. And in the past, he has what I call pro bono work. He might call it something else, being a lawyer, but it's pro bono work that he has in that capacity, being the county attorney. Here's another agent in the county like he does for the sheriff and some other folks. He's just signed off on that letter that says, I'm not aware of. But this time, because of all the problems that have been going on with CART and all this sort of thing, he was being extra cautious. And so the CARTS board has agreed to sign a letter relieving him of any possible conflict of interest between the county and CARTS.
So what I'm really hearing is that what Jonathan does is go and check to see whether there's any judgments against CART.
That's correct. Yeah.
No,
That's
it's not.
That's part
any-
of it. That's
it's
part
not-
of it. But the other part, let me just say this. I meant to say one other thing.
So the CART
Recognizing this now at this point in time, CARTS is going to hire its own lawyer. Jonathan won't be put in this position again because we're going to have their own lawyer so that when we need legal kinds of representation, we don't have to go to the county lawyer to ask for his assistance.
So are you saying that that
So this is kind of a one-time
one
thing.
shot deal
Yeah, this is kind of a one-shot deal here.
and it's okay with CART that they've waived Jonathan?
Oh, yeah, CARTS is going to sign the letter that he wants from CARTS so that he can continue to represent the county and not be in conflict.
Why would it be a problem for us not him not with that having that? I don't.
You have to
see a
ask him.
problem.
I don't know.
Would this in conflict with your contract with the county?
Yes, sir.
No? So what's the issue?
He wants to make sure he's clear.
Want to make sure he's clear.
He just wants to make sure that the county agrees.
There has never been this kind of discussion in questions between the two organizations in the past.
So do we need a motion?
That's what we said. But
Madam Chair, I want to make a motion that we waive this for this time for John.
You contingent on CARTS signing
And this is for the 2021.
for the 2022.
This is for the 2021 audit response.
21 audit.
Motion
2020.
has
I agree
been,
with that, Dan.
Yeah.
I second it.
motion has been properly made by Commissioner Hester, seconded by Commissioner.
Everybody.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion carries that we accept this for the 2021 year.
We'll get 'em.
Madam Chair, two other quick updates. In the zoning violation case, the Vance County versus David Hecker case, he was served by certified mail. April the 12th is when his 30 days runs on his ability to file an answer. If he does not file an answer, we will move forward with getting a default entry and ask for the court to give us a default judgment, both banning him from allowing this to happen, from this to be replenished, as well as to pay for the fines and fees that have been assessed to him and the cost against him. I've received some information that he has begun cleaning that up. But we still, due to his lack of ability and failure to clean things up, we did issue fines. And of course, there's some expenses involved in this that we're going to move forward and ask the judge to enter an order against him on that. Also wanted to give you an update on the real estate purchase for EMS property. The sellers did agree to a 90-day extension, and that extension letter has been signed, and that extension agreement has been signed. And we're continuing to work with the property owner of Dollar General. And so far, we still believe we're going to get a release just for Vance County from all of the subject restrictive covenants. That's all that I have.
Okay, next we have the consent agenda items.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion has been made, properly second. All those in favor? Ayes carry. Any nays? Motion carries. Any motion to adjourn?
Move for adjourn.
Second.
The motion has been made that we adjourn by Commissioner Brummett, seconded by Commissioner Faines. We adjourn the meeting.
Oh, it's coming to 27. I'm going. Summit.